I'd like to welcome you to the ACR webinar on stock receipting, keeping on top of your stock using stock receipting system. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover some configurations. In doing that, we're going to look at a bit of user security and an item called the Audiophile. We're going to have a look at the price change screen, which is going to cover it's going to be used in most of the remainder of it. We're going to have a look at some differences between the delivery docket and stock receipting method. Going to have a talk about reconciling delivery dockets. And finally, once stock receipts have been completed, have a bit of a look at how you can report on them and where to get further information on the stock receipts. So, what we're going to do, we're first going to have a look at some of the configurations that are available. Now, most of the configurations are kept in a single area in the ordering system configurations. So, these are price change screen default 2. So when we get to the price change screen, there are 3 options there: maintain prices, maintain markup, rounded markups. This is where you can choose what option your system will default to when that pops up. I'm going to touch on each of those options when we actually look at the price change screen. No price change for specials is to do with specials ordering. So if you're using a special system, have an order marked as being an order from a special, you can then set it so that if you stock receipt an order that was a special order, it does not prompt the price change screen. So that way, if you're part of a buying group and they're running a special, you've bought some items specifically to stock for that special, you don't necessarily want to readjust your price permanently based off the cheaper purchase price you've achieved. So that's where the no price change for specials can be used. Cost change on included item. This is about notifying people when an item that is part of a compiled item has a cost change when it's stock receipted. So the typical example that we use in our documentation is a toilet suite. It may consist of the toilet bowl, the cistern, and a toilet seat. That are 3 separate items that you stock, but are also kept as a compiled item that you can buy the entire thing as one package. So if one of those particular items, the cost changes on it, that can affect what your final sell price will be of the compiled item as well. So you can get the system to alert an operator, do nothing, or email to a specific email address to alert someone. So this is just a way of being able to have it tell you that something's changed in the compiled item that you may want to address. Allow rounding up 2%. This is to do with variances that may come in when you're dealing with prices for items that get to 3 or 4 decimal places in the end. Our system holds up to 3 decimal places. This will allow you to do rounding on the whole stock receipt. So you can set a final margin of how much rounding do you want to allow in a stock receipt. So that's difference between the invoice value and the final value of the stock receipt. What difference do you want to allow and still allow the system to process it? There may be instances where you can't get it exactly right down to the cent. There might be a few cents difference. This rounding will allow you to handle that without the system blocking you from completing it. Stock receipt scanning mandatory. If you tick this, it means that items can only be stock receipted by being scanned in using an RF scanning gun. And then again, you've got a rounding option to use with that. Stock receipt line cost allows you to determine what line costs will be getting used in the stock receipt by default. Are you doing it via the sell unit or the buy unit? So you might have sell by the inner, buy by the outer. Do you want it to default to the sell unit, or do you want it to default to the buy unit? Generally, most people have it as buy unit because most of the time your invoice from your supplier is in buy unit, so you want to be able just to enter it straight in. No label if price 1 not updated for those people using shelf labels. This configuration basically determines whether, if it's ticked, unless price 1 is changed, no barcode label or shelf label will be generated. If price code 1 is changed, then a shelf label will get generated. If it's unticked, then the label system can generate a label for every time it is stock receipted, regardless of if it is if price 1 has changed or not. Enforce quantity divisible by multiple order, or by order multiple. If this is selected, then the product must be stock receipted with a quantity that's divisible by the order multiple field in product maintenance. This basically just allows you to stop people being able to stock receipt things in different orders to how you multiples to how you sell it. This can be useful if you get situations often where things are getting like if you've got the ordering and the selling set up so that basically you are ordering in the same sizes as you sell. So that option is there. Audiophile sequence. This is how the audiophile will sort by default. So the audiophile, we will be getting to that briefly in this webinar. We won't do too much in it, but we'll touch on what it is. The audiophile can be ordered as entered, item number, or by description. Now, product info third column. This controls what information will be displayed in a stock receipt in the third column on the bottom when you are selected on a product. So you've now got the option, you've got 6 different fields that are displayed there. You now have the option of selecting what information you want displayed in each of those 6 fields, and by extension, what order that information is displayed in. These go top to bottom, the same as it goes top to bottom in the stock receipting screen. So you've got all of these options. So your discount rate and status, your fine line class, price 1x. Now markup will be markup or margin depending on how your system is configured. So you have price 1x, price 1 marginal markup, price 2x, price 2 marginal markup, price group, promo group, stock turns, total figures, year-to-date hits. So you are able to change these however you want, and that will reflect in the stock receipting screens themselves. So when we get to looking at one of the stock receipting screens, we will definitely, I'll point out the column that relates to again, so that you can get a better visual for it. Now there are a couple of ACR only configurations, so they're not visible on this screen, but if you need to have some of these changed, you can talk to the training team and they'll be able to update them for you. Those are those configs are things like cost change security level. So you can set which security group has the ability to change the cost in stock receipting. If you are a member of that security group, you'll be able to change it straight away. If you are not a member of that security group, it'll get pushed to the audiophile. Another one we have is miscellaneous stock receipt authority. Again, it's a a security level to a security group to say who can whether you can stock receipt miscellaneous products or not. Print label only for cost change, and so there's a couple. The print label only for cost change, do not create labels. Work in conjunction with this no label if price one not updated. So basically you can configure it to say, do I want one if the cost changes, yes or no? Do I want one if price one is updated, yes or no? And do I want one at all? So you can work those all together to come up with a combination that works for you. You've also got the so that is the options with it. So the security and Audiophile stuff is around the cost change security and the Audiophile. If when you were doing a stock receipt, you do not have the permissions to change the cost, what will happen is the price change will be loaded into the stock receipt Audiophile. So what this does, this will allow you to have people who do the stock receipting for you that do not have the permission to change the prices. So what will happen with that is they can do a stock receipt, they can enter all the details, they can update the prices correctly, they can enter in the values so that your creditor system will get handled, but the Audiophile will then need to be worked on by somebody who has authority, and this will allow them to decide if they want to allow the price to go up or go down on a product, or are they maintaining the margin when there is a price change. So the security is around who is able to change the price, and then the Audiophile is around what happens when a price change is initiated by someone who is not allowed to do it. That price gets loaded into the Audiophile, and that allows the person to be able to see the product, what invoice number, what date did it come in, what the variance is, last cost, new cost, old cost, the sell price, and make a decision on what is going to happen. So when using this screen, basically you've got your print all, your process all, process current, jump, we'll just jump one and move to the next. You print, you clear, you quit. We'll do a webinar solely on the Audiophile process because there is more to it than this. This is just an introduction to it initially. So, when working with stock receipting in ACR, it's all under the stock control stock receipts heading, and you've got your options here. Now, as we touched on, stock receipting can be split into a couple of sort of streams, I guess. Your stock receipt and manual stock receipt, and delivery dockets and manual delivery dockets. So generally the difference between the two is whether there is a price on the document you receive. If you receive an unpriced delivery docket, then you will generally use delivery docket by order or manual delivery docket to receipt the items. Once the invoice then arrives for that, you can do a reconciliation separately to handle the financial side. If, however, you receive a tax invoice with the stock, you can then generally just go and stock receipt it straight away. Other options you have are price delivery docket by order if you do get a price delivery docket, process electronics and process dense invoice files are to do with specific styles of electronic invoices that come in. The Audiophile that we've touched on, goods returned. So if after you have done a stock receipt, if you need to then return the stock, you can use a goods returned to be able to actually generate a document that basically says, hey, I'm going to return this much stock, and be able to also trigger off the adjustment note to actually say, hey, I need this much worth of financial credit because I'm returning this stock. So what we had there was a difference between stock receipting via an invoice and stock receipting via a delivery docket. Once you know what document you have to work on, the next question you then have is, am I going to do a manual receipt or a by order receipt? The easy way to determine this is, if you have an order in ACR that you want to receipt, you are generally better off doing stock receipt by order, because that will link back to the original order and allow it to all close off seamlessly. If, however, you have not created the order originally in ACR, so you might have phoned the supplier and just said, hey, I need this, can you send it to me? Then you do the manual stock receipt as a way of being able to inject an order, a receipt straight in. That will actually have the effect of going back and effectively creating an order that it links back to within ACR. So either way, there's still an order that originates. It's really just, do you create the order, wait for it to arrive and then receipt it, or do you create the order and receipt it all at the same time effectively? All right, so what we will, now that there is a little bit of a difference between the two screens, so I'll show you briefly. There's not really a difference between the two working screens for manual stock receipt or stock receipt by order. They both have a section at the top that covers the order details and a section in the body that covers the products, as well as a section at the bottom that gives details on the product. The main difference is a manual stock receipt entry screen asks you for all of the details about the supplier and then allows you to enter in products one by one, whereas a stock receipt by order first asks you which stock receipt you wish to open, and then allows you to open it and work on it. So our options here are display selected. This will just display it to make sure that we've selected the right one. Load manual stock receipt. This will allow you to load the details from the stock receipt by order straight into a manual stock receipt. And we'll get to why you may want to do that as we're working through it. OK is what I'm going to select now, and this will just launch the stock receipting screen. So this is saying, yes, this is the one I want to use. So what we'll see here is that this is actually loaded in the supplier details and all of the products that we have that we want to work with. So one thing you may notice is that the stock receipting screen has got a large number of items here, but still has a scroll bar on it. You can, within ACR now, change the size of this screen. So it will try and adjust now automatically to accommodate the size of the window that you're working with. So it will try and accommodate the size of the screen that you have to give you the maximum number of lines available. As well as that, if for some reason you're finding these columns too cramped, you can also drag the right of the screen to give you more width. The same as you can also move the right of these columns to give you additional width in a column. The way this additional width works is that it adjusts the size of the description box. So the wider you have everything else, the narrower the description box will get by default. So you can adjust all the different lines to suit, and doing that is by selecting the right hand of any of these and adjusting them. That includes the extension cost column. So this has obviously been done to try and give you the maximum amount of visible information. You now have the buttons down the bottom here where you can do clear now received. So if you in here, it's defaulting to now received all of the quantity. You can clear all of that. If you've got stuff in the now cancelled, you can set everything to now cancelled, which is effectively a way of clear now received, set now cancelled is a way of effectively cancelling out this stock receipt and saying I'm not going to be receiving any of it. You can choose if the extension cost is in XGST dollars or Inc GST dollars, depending on what your supplier invoice has. It may be easier to set it to be an Inc GST for this time because this supplier has given you everything in Inc GST. So you've got that option to make it easier for your employees when they're working with the stock receipts. These columns down the bottom are the ones I was talking about for the product information. So the first two and last one are set. This third column here is the column that you can now set which options will display here and in what order. So we just still have the default set here at the moment. So to actually process a stock receipt, you come up the top, enter in the invoice number from the actual supplier invoice. You enter in the invoice date from the supplier. Now you can enter in the invoice total and the total GST at this point, although it's not mandatory. Some people do prefer to wait to do that. So the next one is total charges in GST. This gives you an ability, if you've got it set up, to add in, is there different insurance and freight and such. Total claims allows you to actually place a claim on it. So we can see this. We'll go through and we'll add it in. Total claims. So how the claims work is this is effectively an adjustment note entry. So if you have received a product, when you receive the product, if you notice that something is missing, you are able to raise the adjustment note directly from this screen rather than having to receipt it in and then say, no, it's missing. Or if they have not sent you, say they have said they've sent you 10 and they've only sent you, and you'd ordered, well, they said if you ordered 10, they said they sent you 10, you've received 8. This is where you can also enter in that type of detail. The header ones appear in the header and just entry fields. The description is just a free entry field. People use this differently. Some will put in just detailed description of a product, the individual price and an extension. Other people just will enter in something like maybe spoke to this person, agreed on credit, put in just as a quantity of 1 the total price, and that's done. So that's the total claims. You do have the ability to stock receipt directly into different stock areas if you are using different stock areas. And then you can come down into the actual products. So now received is saying how much have I actually received? How much am I receipting into the system? You'll notice here that you have a received and a cancelled, as well as a now received and a now cancelled. It is possible to do a split receipt. You might have had a part shipment sent to you. They might have short shipped an order. You're able to enter in the quantity that you actually received, and that will do a part shipment. That means you can come back to this later and complete the shipment. If we were to go through and complete this, what you would see on the side, it would be the quantity that you have previously, the total quantity you've previously received, and any total quantity you've previously cancelled. So to do a short receipt, doing it where I've got one here, one in cancelled, means that that item has been short delivered and I'm never going to receive any more of it. That's a way of basically saying I've received one, cancel one, I want to be able to close this whole invoice off at the end of it. However, if I said I've received one and cancel 0, that says that I'm expecting one more to be delivered to me later, but I have not yet received it. So if I have a number less than the order in the now received, 0 in the cancelled, that's going to be a short received, and keep it open expecting a future stock receipt to arrive. If my now received and if I have a value in now received, a value in now cancelled, and that adds up to the ordered quantity, that effectively is saying that this is all I'm going to receive of this product. I'm not going to receive any more. And here you can just move down by using the tab, and you'll see that it takes you through the now received, now and line cost as an efficient way of moving through. Now say that you get to a line here, and while you may have ordered it at $63.74, there may have been a price change and it's now gone up to $65. Nice and easy. You enter the $65, the new cost, and press tab. This will launch the stock receipt price change screen that we were talking about before. This is the screen that if you don't have authority to change the price, you won't be able to work this screen. It'll load it into Audiophile. If you do have the permissions and there has been a price change, this screen will show. So what you get here is you see the product number and description of the product. You see the old cost and the new cost. At the top here, you can see the prices based off the old cost. At the bottom here, you can see the prices based off the new cost and whichever option you have selected. So what you'll notice is maintain markup is selected. So my 75.73% markup is trying to be achieved, which means my price has gone from $16.84 up to $17.35. If, however, I'd selected maintain price, you'll notice that my prices have stayed the same, but my markup has changed. My third option is my rounded markup. So there is a system within ACR called the price rounding system, which allows you to set rules. There is a webinar on the price rounding system and how to use it. So how it works is it will first look to maintain the markup for the cost change and then work out, according to the rules, what price it should then adjust it to. So in this case, I've got it set so that it'll end in a nice figure ending in 5, as opposed to, oh, it just happens to be a 5 there anyway. But the rounded may change that to a different value based off the rounding rules. Now you've got 3 buttons at the bottom. Restart basically will restart this price rounding. Accept prices will say whatever prices are down the bottom here are what I want to keep, accept those. Leave cost. If you select this button, it will do a couple of things. One, it will stock receipt your item at the value it is, at its new value, but it will not update the product file with that new cost value. So what ends up happening is, behind the scenes, if you were just to accept prices, the system will do a stock adjustment to increase your, in this case, the quantity by 2. It will also do a cost adjustment to revalue all the products. So in actual fact, it does the cost adjustment first and increases the value of your current stock to a $65 per item. Then it introduces two additional stock into quantity. If you select leave cost, what happens is it does the cost adjustment first to bring your existing products up to the new cost. We'll introduce the new stock into stock. It'll then do a cost adjustment to return it back down to the original cost. So that's the mechanics in the back end that you can see in the reporting, but that's where there is a difference. Now, the leave cost button does have some very specific uses, especially around items where you may have got a large discount, or there may have been a specific reason why you got products at a cheaper price, but you don't want to reset all the other products to be that cost as their base cost. You want to maintain the current cost as being the base cost for the product. So in this case, we'll do the accept prices. Now, one thing to be mindful of is when you're doing stock receipting, when a price change occurs, that actually updates the product file at that time. So that product file now would reflect a $65 cost on it, even though we haven't completed this stock receipt. If I was now to quit, that product will have the $65 cost on it, even though I haven't actually locked in this stock receipt. So if you are going through and doing it, it is something to be mindful of, to be aware that hey, these changes have occurred. I'm going to fix that one up there. Basically, with this now, you can just go through and work it one at a time. Now, you may notice that this sequence button on the side here, as I move down through products, it is changing the order that they are sequenced in. I can click down and change the order. This has been done to allow you a way that if for some reason the stock receipt is displayed in a different order to the order that is on your invoice, if you want, you can actually go through and click the sequence to end up ordering the products in the correct number order that you require, and then click the resequence button. This will then go through and actually order them by their sequence number to allow you to then start at the top, same as the paper you have in front of you, and work through one by one with them to enter in any changes or any adjustments that are required, or just to tick it off. A lot of people find this easier to do if they've been able to resort it in this fashion than if they had to wait, if they had to sort of keep flicking backwards and forwards through pages. Let's just go through doing one by one. Once it's finished, we come down to the bottom, and we can see here now that my proof is not 0 anymore because I made that cost change. So what I can do, this is why I said there are some people who prefer to enter it in to start with. There are some people who prefer to enter it in after they've completed it. If you enter it in before, that proof will actually work to your advantage. That'll sort of be working down to 0. If you enter it in afterwards, that's your choice and is a perfectly valid way of using it. This shows down the bottom here the stock value. So that's the total value you're increasing your stock holding by, the GST that is included in it, and then the total value that will go onto the creditor, this creditor, that to say you owe them that much now based off this. So at this point, you would normally hit complete and be finished. If for some reason you have received more product than what you originally ordered, you may have called and made an amendment to the order and not updated the original order. They may have sent you bonus stock that you weren't aware that was coming. At that point, you can actually select the Load Manual Stock Receipt button. So what we'll notice in this screen is that there's no ability to load an additional line in. This is what was ordered. Selecting Load Manual Stock Receipt will actually load us into the stock receipt screen and allow us to actually see, hey, this is the... So what we're going to do, we're going to load it by line order number. So what it's done at the bottom here is given us an ability to add an additional line where we might be able to go, right, this product, I'm actually going to do it at 0 cost and say that they gave it to me as a bonus item. I'm going to say leave cost because I don't want it to affect my cost, and say that they gave me 4 of these as a bonus item. So that's a way of being able to do items where you may get, they might send you like there's a buy 2 get 1 free promotion. You can enter in you can enter in the quantity you're purchasing on one line at the value, then enter in the quantity that is a bonus at a $0 cost, using that leave cost button to say I don't want to permanently adjust my cost base down to $0. Now, one of the main differences in the manual stock receipt screen, and this is the same screen that you would get if you selected that manual stock receipt, is you've got a replace order number button. So it is possible that you could have gone through and manually keyed this whole order in, said replace order, entered in the original order number, and hit complete. And what this will do, this will link back to that original order, close it off, but it will actually close it off as a new order number, because that's with the manual stock receipting, as I said. Part of it is that it goes back and actually creates an order within the ACR system. So it is something that you can do in here, is to go through and actually key in any order in the manual stock receipting, and you can still link it back and complete an order that is in the system. Alternatively, when you went into the entry by order, you can actually then have it go through and complete in the manual stock receipt if you need to. So we'll hit complete, and that'll go through, and you'll see there that it's going through now and updating at the bottom all the lines, and it's done. Now, just to cover this off, the delivery docket screen looks visually similar, but what you'll notice is that it does not deal with any of the cost. It just wants the quantities. With a delivery docket, you enter in the quantity initially. Once you've completed it, that will update the quantities. You then come into manual stock receipt maintenance to actually complete a reconciliation. Docket reconciliation. In here, you have a couple of choices. You can do a single docket reconciliation, or you can actually join with them. If you've got more than one, you can join them. If not, you can just select the one you want. You'll only get the docket reconciliation button show if a docket reconciliation is required. So with this, if we were to change over and have a look at a supplier that's all done, you'll notice that the docket reconciliation button does not show. That's except for the last one, because that's the only one that requires a docket reconciliation. All the other ones have been reconciled. So if we load one that needs a docket reconciliation, what you'll notice now is that it starts displaying more like our stock receipting screen, where it asks us for an invoice number, it asks us for an invoice date, and it asks us for a total. It allows us to do our claims if we need, allows us to go through and update our line costs. Now, it won't allow you to change the quantity, The reason it won't allow you to change the quantity is the quantities have already been updated and locked in. This is purely working on what cost is associated with the product. Once you've gone through and completed, complete it. Need GSC total. Once that's been completed, that's it. Your reconciliation is done. And that's really all the reconciliation is. It is cleaning up the dockets that have come in to have the financial side of it linked off to it. What we come down to now is the reporting side and being able to have a look at the reporting. In the reporting, we've got a couple of areas that we can look at information. We've got stock receipt maintenance, where you can have a look through and have a look at any that have been done, see details of them. You can look them up by the invoice number, by the specified supplier. You can see if a reconciliation has been completed or not. You can look it up in a specific product. So we can look up a specific product, product summary, stock movement, and we can see there that a stock receipt has occurred. We've got an ability here to suppress or show cost adjustments. When you change that, you do need to click the Find button, and it will show if there are any cost adjustments there with it. The alternative way to get to that same screen is to use the stock movement inquiry screen, where we can enter in a product and see the details of it. With this, we can go through and we can actually see details of all the transactions that have occurred for products that have more transactions. With this one, if we do the cost change, yeah. We've now got in there all of the details that we need with it. So here we can see cost adjustments included. We can see descriptions of suppliers, if they're orders, sales details, customer details. We can see all of the stock adjustments that have occurred with this product. Now, if we actually want to be able to run reports to see details through the reporting system, we can come under Reports, Stock Movement Value Report. Run it as the Stock Movement Value Report. This will allow us to do a lot of things with stock and have a look at a lot of different stock-related information. We can turn around and just say, look, we want to look at stock transfers, or we just want to look at stock receipts, doesn't matter where it came from. One thing that can be a little bit tricky with that is if you just look at stock receipts, you may not necessarily see the cost adjustments that go along with those stock receipts. So it can sometimes be worth using an all, or at least picking a couple of them to be able to drill down, because sometimes if you go too narrow, you do miss some details. So we then have options on what we can do. We can qualify it by date. We can qualify it for specific products. We can qualify it for a certain transaction number. So one way you can do this, and one way I've used this in the past, is I might say, look, I don't know what my transaction number is because I want to see all the details that happened on a recent stock receipt. So what I might do is I might say, right, for a period of this, I'll pick one of the products that was on my stock receipt, and I'll generate the report to screen. So what will happen with that is I can see here, and I can see, yep, there was a receipt done on this day with the reference number 1618. So that's the transaction I want to look at further, but I don't want to just focus on this one product. I want to look at all of the products that were on that. So I'll take note of that 1618 and come back and run this again. However, this time I'll use that reference number as the transaction number and say, give me anything that has to do with that. Now I might want to be safe, and I might want to spin it down and say, right, only show me stuff that relates to that in the date range, because I can see here that it's only in that one date range that one date I'm looking at, and generate the report. And this will now come back and it will actually show me all of the details about that one transaction. So what I can see here is, now this is split up because of cost changes in it. So I can see here at a glance that all of these items were receipted in. There was a cost change done to this item. Then the rest were receipted in, cost change, and a cost change. So if I'm looking at this, this may be the item that I'm looking at, and I can see here that, oh, there was a cost change done, so it went up to $65. Then the two items got stock receipted in. That allows me to go through, look at the details, and work with them as much as I need. So that is largely it for the reporting side of it. So just a couple of things. Prices are reviewed on a line-by-line basis. There are the two main perspectives we spoke about. Is it a stock receipt where you have a priced invoice, or is it a delivery docket where you have an unpriced delivery docket? You can have people stock receipt without being able to change the cost on the product file if you need to. And purchase journals can process automatically when reconciling. That's part of doing those stock receipts. Thank you very much for attending the webinar with us today. If you've got any questions, please feel free to contact the ACR training team. They're always happy to assist you any further. Otherwise, as said, thank you very much for attending, and hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you.